I have ranked many things in many games, from Project Zomboid to Kenshi and Rimworld and a bunch of other things in between, but I've never ranked anything in Starsector. And I love Starsector, I love all the things, and there's so many details that you can rank and you can think about and you can build your ships and all that stuff. Anyway, today I'm going to be ranking all the frigates, and there's a lot of frigates in this game, and I'm going to be ranking them. Now, hear me out here. This can be very personal, right? Every player has their own personal preference, and I'll be ranking based on that. I'll be ranking based on how they feel in players' hands and based on how they operate in the AI fleets. Also based on how far you can get them into late game, because these are frigates, they are mostly early game, but not all of them. Some of them are really good later in the game as well. So all of these things I will be considering when ranking, but in the end, it's still kind of a personal decision, so keep that in mind as we go. Now first we have two Afflictors, the base one, which is high-tech, and then the other one, which Pirates had some modifications done to it. Now the base one is 12 DP, which makes it one of the more expensive frigates, for sure, but it's also very fast. It's got very good alpha strike potential, which makes it very powerful. Of course, it's a phase ship, so it can escape a lot of things, but still, its CR is gonna go down pretty fast. Still, this is a very good ship. It's amazing if you just wanna try to use it to capture objectives. Now, personally, I prefer it to be flown by AI in my fleets. I personally do not like flying phase ships, but this is a ship that is gonna stay with you into the late game. But you're probably not gonna have many of them unless you go for some talents that actually give you better phase stuff and you have officers that can handle that. Anyway, this is still a very good ship. Even though it's pretty expensive and it's gonna cost you a lot early on to get, I will put the tri-tech version into, or the high-tech version I should say, into S tier. Now the pirate one is less DP, so it's only 9 I believe instead of 12, but it also loses 2 hard points. Now it still has the same amplifier, which is gonna make the enemy ships take more damage when they use this system, so that still makes it really good, but you know, it's still a pirate rework, so it's not that good. We're gonna put it over here into B. Then we have 4 versions of the Brawler. Basic version, we have the Vanguard version, we have the Logic Path version, and this is the Tri-Tech version. So they're all slightly different, but roughly the same. Now Brawler is a ship that kinda is like a destroyer frigate almost. It's got two medium ballistic mounts on it, so it can actually produce quite some DACA. And I feel like they're better used fighting destroyers than they're fighting frigates, because they are slightly slower than your average frigates, so they can get outmaneuvered by that if they don't use their system properly. But otherwise, yeah, this is a decent ship to use even into mid-game, especially when you're fighting more destroyers and such. Even against cruisers, it can pack a punch. Now, my personal favorite out of those, which is something that you might see me mention often, is the Logic Path version, because the Luddites are crazy. They put safety all rights on everything, and they also put on an accelerated ammo feeder, which makes it shoot faster when you use your system, which, let's be real, everybody loves more DACA. So if you outfit it properly, maybe some chain guns if you go the SO route, this can really do a lot of damage when you're hunting down something like pirates or something. But otherwise, if you want to play it more safer and you want to put it into AI's hands, then you might want to build something that has a bit more range, so it can shoot from afar. But this is not a ship that you're going to be using mostly for hunting down other faster frigates, but mostly to hold the line, mostly like a frigate of the line. Still, I feel like these are all good, and I think they deserve to be in the A tier. I think the Logic Path version, in my opinion, is the best, and these two, the Vanguards and the Tri-Tech, have some differences between them, like they have more focus on the energy rather than the ballistic, but they are all like very good variants in my opinion. Then we have two Centurions, the base one and the Vanguard refit. Now this is more of a, like, it's a big frigate, but it's more of a PD frigate. It's basically best used as an escort to bigger ships, and you can slap on a lot of PD and can be used as a PD ship. And then the Vanguard version adds I think, more energy mounts, so it's more focused on the energy, which is what line guards do. But in my opinion, these do not survive that well into late game. Mid game they're still fine, but not into the late game, at least in my opinion. And it's not really a ship that you personally are going to be flying much. It's better used that if you have these in your fleet, to just slap them as a light escort to your main ship if you need some PD behind or something like that. But otherwise, I think that they are solid in the middle somewhere in the C tier. Then we have 3 versions of the Cerberus. We have the base one, the Luddic Path version, and the pirate version. This ship is a combat freighter with no shields, which means it's gonna die. Whenever you meet it on the opposing team, you focus it, it's gonna die. If you put it in your own team, it's gonna be focused and it's gonna die. So it's not really a ship that you're going to be using unless you have no other options, or since it does have the shielded cargo holds, if you want to do some early game smuggling and, you know, try to sell some drugs, then I guess you use it, but you still wouldn't really be deploying it unless you have to. Now, the Luddic Path version, again, they put on the safety overrides and accelerated ammo feeder, so it's gonna provide more DACA, but it's still gonna die. So, not very useful. I think we're gonna put all 3 of these down here into D tier. Then we have a Dram. We're just gonna quickly go over Dram. It's a civilian ship, it's a tanker. You're gonna use it in your fleet to carry your fuel, and that's basically it. You will never deploy it into combat unless you're trying to escape. You will never fly it because it has no real use to be flown. And as that, while you kinda need it, especially early on for fuel, you will also actually just put it in your fleet and forget. So it's not something you're gonna ever think about. It's just F tier. Then we have 3 versions of the Gremlins. Again, base, Luddic Path, and pirates. Pirates just recolor the base one, and Luddic Path put on safety overrides. Who would have thought? Anyway, this is like a very common phase frigate. It's much cheaper than Afflictor to deploy, so it will be more commonly used, let's say, by pirates and such. But it's not a very good phase frigate. In fact, it's probably the worst phase frigate. Still, it does have 2 missile slots, which means that it can decently annoy you or your other frigates, or maybe some of your unshielded ships, or maybe some ships that got disabled engines or don't have much PD in the back. So it can go behind them, it can shoot the missiles in their ass, and yeah, it can cause some issues, but in the long term you really will never really worry about these ones. So even though maybe the Luddic Path one, since it has SO and it's faster, it might be a bit more useful for capturing strategic points and then kind of distracting enemies on the side. It's got low CR, so it's not gonna stay in there for too long. I feel like the Gremlins gotta go into D tier as well. Then we have a Hermes. This is a civilian grade ship. If you put it into combat, it will die. Maybe you can use it early on as like a cargo ship, but that's about it. It really has no stay in combat, even though it has like 3 small mounts. It's not really gonna do much, so unfortunately it just goes into F tier. The next we have Hounds. Many different Hounds. We have a couple of variants. So we have the base one, we have the Hegemony one, we have the Luddic Church one, which is basically just a recolor of the base one. We have the Luddic Path, which, you guess what, it's got safety overrides on. And then we have the Pirates, which is also just a recolor. Now, these are very common. It only takes 3 deployment points, but they do not have a shield, which means that they are very squishy and they will die. They do have 1 medium ballistic hardpoint, which means that they can actually do some DACA, and that goes especially for the Luddic Path one, of course. They also have shielded cargo holds, so again, if you want to do some smuggling early on, they can be used for that. Certainly not a ship that is going to survive into a late game. Early on, you can use it with swarm tactics because they are very fast and they can easily go around like smaller ships, maybe frigates, some destroyers, you know, maybe even they can overpower a cruiser, but probably not, maybe if you have a lot. Also, the Hegemony one has got a bit of extra armor and a bit more ordnance points, which means maybe you can slap like a weapon that's got longer range, like a HVD or something, and just pop things from afar. I don't think the AI would be very good at using that, because they do tend to kind of close in. Maybe if you go with something like a cautious officer, but that just feels extremely wrong on a Hound. So these ships early on, they can be useful. They will never survive into late game, but you have like the hegemony and Luddic path ones are better, and then the other three are slightly worse, but still feel like they can be in C tier, because early on you will see them everywhere, and you'll probably be able to use them if you can't really afford anything better, but whenever you're gonna ditch them, you're really not gonna miss them. Then we have a Hyperion. This is the super frigate. This is the ultimate player ship. I would never put this into the hands of the AI. It is 15 DP, so it's pretty much the most expensive frigate. I think the Afflictor would be the second one. It's got a lot of power, great flux stats, a lot of potential for extreme damage, and you can even put safety overrides on it, and it's gonna be even faster, even better flux venting and all that stuff. So yeah, it can be really fun to fly, an amazing player ship. Personally, I do prefer flying bigger ships like battle cruisers or something like that in the end. So it's not really a me ship, but I know that a lot of players would have a lot of fun with it. I would still not put it ever into AI's hands, but I feel like for it being a super ship and it being pretty rare and it being really fun to fly, it deserves to be up here in the S tier. Then we have a lot of kites. Yeah, there's 5 versions of them. This is the base one, this is the hegemony, then we have the Luddic path, then we have the pirates, and then we have just the shuttle version that has no weapons on it. So this one can just easily go into F tier because you will never use it in combat. It's just not useful. So yeah, F tier for that one. And then for the rest, it is only 2 deployment points, so extremely cheap. You can deploy many of these. And best of all, they have 2 small missile points, so you can put 2 small missiles. This is like the Reaper torpedo delivery system. Basically, that's if you use a kite, that's how you should use it. Put some Reapers on it, slap some Reapers on it, it's very fast, send it in there. Now, unfortunately, you have the civilian grade hull on these things, so yeah, not really combat appropriate, but you can get around that. And let's be real, if a kite dies, you will never ever miss it. It's just there to deliver the payload of those Reapers, and it can do like Reapers will do like 4,000 damage or something like that. So yeah, a little ship like that can do extreme damage, and it's actually decent enough to fly early on because it's so fast and so maneuverable. But it's one of those ships that you will send in there, it's gonna deliver the payload, and then you're just gonna tell it to retreat. That's its only job. Now the basic one, we're gonna put into the C tier, and same for the pirate one because it's just a recolor. They just slap some paint on it. But then we have the hegemony and Luddic path. Now hegemony 1 actually comes with militarized subsystems and some extra OP, so you can put some more stuff on it or put some stronger stuff on it, so that makes it better. And then of course the pathers made it SO, which means it is faster. And I feel like for that, these ones actually are much better than just C. I feel like you can safely put these kites into B tier. Yes, in my opinion, they're better than Hounds and they're better than all of these. But what is even better? I feel like Lashers are even better. We have 3 Lashers. These are pretty big frigates. They might not be the fastest, but still, when you're flying anything bigger than a frigate, they feel fast and they can outmaneuver you, especially because they have so much DACA potential. They have so much missile potential. And of course, we have a couple of different versions once again. We have the base one, we have the Luddic Church, which I believe is just a recolor, and then we have the Luddic Path, which have the safety overrides built in. So this thing has accelerated ammo feeder, so more DACA. It's got a ballistic rangefinder, so in the end, more DACA, I guess. These also feel very solid in players' hands, and I feel like early game, if you fly this one, you'll have fun. Now, I don't think they are very good at surviving into mid to late game, definitely not late game, but I feel like for early game, they will have the staying power, and I feel like the basic one and the Church Recolor deserves to be in B tier. I feel like Luddic Path for the safety overrides and how much that can do, how much damage you can do with that, especially if you fly it as a player, not in the AI's hands, but as a player, I feel like this can be like low A tier, so we're gonna put it up there. Then we have a Mercury. Yeah, it's a civilian grade ship that is really not gonna do much for you. Maybe if you put some missiles on it and suicide it into the enemy, maybe that, but otherwise it's not something you should be seeing in your fleets, so it goes out here into F tier next to these ones. Then we have a Monitor. Monitor is the de facto escort, PD, soak, distraction frigate, whatever you want it to be, it is that. It's got the Omni Shield and it's got the Fortress Shield special thing. And with its Flux Dissipation, it can really soak like capital ships type of damage. So these are amazing as distraction. Like you send this one on the side and the enemy capital is gonna be like, oh, this is a small ship, I wanna kill it. And it's gonna go after it and it's just gonna shoot at it, beam at it, whatever. And it's not going to do any damage. It's just going to be distracted while you personally take care of the rest of the ships and then you go back to the capital, something like that. Also, you can use it as like a personal PD ship, right? So it escorts you. I feel like these monitors also survive well into the mid to late game, especially as escorts. So I think this is a really good frigate. Probably as a player, it's not that fun to fly because it's more of a defensive ship than an offensive ship, but it's just gonna soak, it's just gonna survive. You're gonna get a lot out of it because it's gonna stay on the field longer, so I feel like it deserves to be up here in the S tier. But what does not deserve to be anywhere near the top, it's the Mudskipper. It's just a freighter, combat freighter. It's gonna die. Just put it down here in the F tier. And then we have the pirate version on it. They slapped a large ballistic mount on it. That probably fires and the ship just explodes by default. Anyway, it is gonna explode by default when you just look at it. So it's really not something you or the pirates should use. Unless you're the one hunting pirates, then they might as well use it because it's just gonna explode. So yeah, unfortunately this also has to go down here into the F tier. Then we have the Omen, which is the high-tech version of a de facto PD escort ship. This little thing is amazing. It's 6 deployment points, which means that even in the late game it is very good to deploy 1 or 2 of these. They are pretty rare, but deploying 1 or 2 of these as escorts to your ships, it's awesome. They can be really good at that. They also have like 1 missile, so they can slap a Reaper torpedo on it if you want to, or anything that will support your ship if you want to do that. But the best thing about it is the EMP emitter that it has. So basically, it's gonna zap like electricity out when it uses, that's the ship system. It can't really shoot anything else while it does that, but that's gonna like, if it's flying around you, it's gonna destroy missiles coming at you, it's gonna destroy fighters coming at you, but also can be really useful against enemy ships if you need to do it, if you need to use it against enemy ships. So Omens, amazing. You will keep them into the late game and that like just gives them so much power. So yeah, definitely deserves to be up here in the S tier. For me, to be honest, out of all of these frigates, Omen is the S tier ship. Then we have an Ox. Oxen are great, but not for combat. They're not here for combat, so just like Drams, they're just not here for combat. They're here to increase the burn level of your fleet, so you will never really use them early game because you will be using small ships that are fast. So this are only for late game because they're also expensive, but they are there to tug your bigger ships who cannot fly fast, to tug them along so they fly faster. But for combat, they're not useful, so we can't really rank them here. We're just gonna put it next to the Dram into F tier. Next, then we have the Scarab. Scarab is a high-tech heavy frigate that's got a bunch of mounts, 2 of them missiles, so it's got potential for a lot of energy DACA, but not really because it's energy, so it's not that much of a DACA, it's more of like pew pew lasers and such. Anyway, it feels like you never really see these. They're not that common, at least in my opinion, and they're also not that good. Like, they can be solid early on, but they are 8 deployment points, so you might be better off deploying something else, multiples of something else. And I don't feel like they survived that well into the late game, when if you want frigates, you probably will not have many in your fleet when if you go into late game, so you would rather have something like an Omen or an Afflictor that can be there, right? So this has no real power either early or late game. It's just somewhere in the middle. It does have the special like system that makes it much faster and shoots much faster and all that stuff. That might make it more fun for a player to control, but in general I feel like it's a very mid ship, so we're gonna put it down here into B tier. Then we have Shade, another phase ship. Personally, as I said before, I do not like flying phase ships, but Shade can be actually very useful. There's also a pirate version, which is just straight up worse. It still retains the system, but it's got like way less ordnance points, and I feel like it's got less potential for DACA. So straight up, the pirate is just worse. But then the high-tech one, with its EMP emitter, the same one as the Omen has, it's got really good potential to get behind slower ships and use the EMP on their engines so it can disable them. So that's really good. And also it has the 2 missile hardpoints, so it can, you know, plop them into the back of a ship, into its ass. It is 8 deployment points though, so it is getting up there on the expensive side, but you know, it's still decent. I think the pirate one is slightly less DP, but it's just straight up worse unless you're using it for the EMP. But I feel like this one, solid. It kind of falls off late game. We're gonna put it out here into A tier, and then the other Shade can be down here in B tier somewhere. Then we have a Shepherd, the drone tender. So this one is civilian grade, but it's got the surveying equipment and salvage gantry, so it will help you early on to salvage some more stuff that you can otherwise would be able to salvage, because it's got those special systems. But since it's civilian grade, it's not really made for fighting. It does have like its little drone companion, and it's decently survivable. So this is one of those ships, one of those frigates that you're not really gonna be sorry if you see them go, but they will definitely survive your first couple of fights, soak damage, and use the little drones for PD, and just they have a surprising survivability in the early game. So for that, I give it definitely a plus. But after a few early fights, you might only use it for cargo and for salvaging, and then even then that's slowly gonna go away. So unfortunately it cannot go higher than, let's say, a D, but it's a decent ship for a D tier. But what is way more than just decent is the Tempest. The Tempest is actually a really good high-tech frigate. It is 8 deployment points though, so it's getting on the high side, but it's extremely fast, extremely maneuverable, very good for like hit and run tactics or capturing objectives, or just basically annoying some enemies on the side. Also, it can easily solo a bunch of different frigates same size as it, or even cause a lot of issues to destroyers because it has that special system. It's got 2 PD drones that are gonna be like shooting stuff down for it, but then it can use the system to overload those drones and just send them to commit Sudoku on the enemy and deal a lot of damage. So it's actually very solid to fly. Early on, if you want to fly something like that. Even later on, you know, if you just want to be on a frigate, sitting on a frigate, it's very fast, very maneuverable, and for that, it's actually kind of cool. But also, the AI is going to do well with it for your ships or for your fleet. So you can use 1 or 2 of these if you want to in fights, even late game. So yeah, I think Tempest definitely goes up here into S tier as well. Then we have the Vanguard and its pirate recaller. It feels like that's another ship that you don't really see, or if you see it, you just forget about it, you zone out and you never see it again. It's got a lot of potential for DACA because it's got a ton of different mounts, but it's got no shield. It has damper field, but it's still, that's not a shield. The armor is eventually gonna get ripped open and it's gonna die. So yeah, I feel like that one is kind of the middle of the tier, but it also drops below middle of the tier as soon as you get, I feel like, out of early game. So it's not very useful. It can do a lot of shooty stuff for you if you're flying as a player. I don't know, maybe in AI hands you can put some long range weaponry to just annoy stuff, but then again, there's so many other options better than that. I feel like we're gonna put it down here into D tier. Then we have a Vigilance, which is another support frigate that has, I feel like, a lot of potential, but it is too squishy to survive to actually unload that potential. It's got a medium missile launcher on it, and it's got the fast missile rack, so it can really deploy a lot of missiles. I do love a missile frigate. I do love the idea of a missile frigate because I personally like missiles a lot. It's just, you cannot leave this on your own because it will die. It's much better used as like a very close escort, so it's right next to you, using maybe its ballistic or medium ballistic as like a PD. You put a flak on it, so it's gonna do that, and then it's gonna support you with missiles, right? You can use it for that, and if you can, as you're on your main ship, if you can take care of it so it doesn't die, it's actually going to be great support. Maybe you can even put 2 on you, so you know they can do that. They're very cheap to deploy. I think like 5 PD or something, DP, not PD. But as soon as it's like slightly out of the way, slightly alone, and slightly focused by any ship, it's just gonna die, and that kind of ruins its potential. Otherwise it could be really great ship. It's also not a ship that I personally would fly, even though you can put like Reapers on it. It's just, I don't think it's made for player. I feel like it's made for AI, and the player has to defend it, and then it can really unleash its full potential. But I feel like I cannot put it higher than, let's say, a B tier, because it's just too squishy. But I will definitely put it out here into B tier. Next we have Wayfarer, which is a combat freighter, a midline version of PD support ship. It's got the flare launcher system. It's there to support you, but let's be real, this is not gonna survive even into mid game, let alone late game. So maybe early on you can use it maybe as your support, but it's probably better to just use it as a freighter if you have it, not really deploy it. It's really not that good. I think the best we can do is put it somewhere maybe in like a low C tier, or yeah, I don't know, probably into D. It's just not that useful. Maybe we could swap these around a bit, but yeah, they're not gonna survive you for too long. And last but not the least, we have the Wolf. The Wolf is a classic player starting ship. You love to see it. It's great to fly, very fun to use as a player, especially early, even into mid game you can use it. Late game it kinda dies off because it's too fragile. The shield arc is not that nice and not that big, and yeah, it's just squishy, but it's very cheap to deploy even to the late game because it's only like 5 DP or something like that. We have, of course, the classic high tech. We have the hegemony recolor, and then we have the pirate one, which I feel like it's got less ordnance points, and it doesn't have as much. I think it loses like 2 energy points, so, or 2 energy weapons, so it's definitely worse. We're gonna put the Wolf one, still fast, you know, still can jump around, although I think it's got like 1 less jump system. So we can still put it up here into B tier, but the high tech and the hegemony recolor, I think these two, especially if you're starting with this and you go like Wolf tactics, you have a couple of these, you'll be able to hunt down a bunch of really nice bounties with these. Fly yourself, get in there, shoot your missile, shoot your weapons, get out. Maybe when you're flying against bigger ships and they're trying to shoot you with like slower projectiles or big old missiles, you can just jump away and you can survive for a long time, and you can annoy and distract bigger enemies, and AI will do that for you as well, although they will not survive for that long whenever you go into late game. Still, great ships. I feel like these for sure deserve to be up here in the A tier. And there we have it. That's my personal ranking. I know a lot of you will disagree with me, but tell me, why do you disagree with me? What would you put into S tier? What would you put into F tier? What did I forget? What did I mess up? Because there's certainly something I did. In any case, there will be more Starsector on the channel soon. For now, thank you for watching.